Welcome to the Art Lady's Kitchen. Today I am going to be cooking up a pasta fazool type soup. You can make this vegan if you'd like, just omit the meat. I have a little bit of hamburger, some Greenwise hamburger that I'm going to be adding to this, just because I have a teenage boy and I want to help promote his growth. But we do mainly plant-based in our home, and then occasionally I'll do a little bit of a meat, but very rarely. So you caught me on my rare occasion, but if you do want to make it vegan, like I said, just omit the meat. I have some bunch of spices, and like I said, I just came back from the farmer's market, so I have some fresh produce that I'm going to throw in. I'm going to try and use as much as I can of the fresh produce. I may throw in a can of tomato paste or a tomato sauce if I need to, but like I said, I'm going to try and do it with all the fresh veggies as I can. I do have some great pasta that I love. It's from Aldi's, and it's their Aldi's brand. And the reason I like the Aldi's pastas is they're made from actually Italy. They came from Italy, imported from Italy. So I like the Italian pasta better. So this is going to be an Italian pasta vegetable soup. I hope you enjoy. For the ingredients, I have some basil, thyme, oregano, and then I'm going to throw in some parsley, onion powder. I'll throw in some garlic powder. I have some of this vegan chicken style kind of bouillon or broth, instant broth. It's like a bouillon type. It's a dry powder. I'll throw in some salt and pepper as needed. I'm going to use lots of veggies. I'll put the bag of carrots, these fresh tomatoes, celery, onions. I'm going to go ahead and chop them up now, and I'm using this mandolin just to help me. If you look in some of my other videos, you'll see how to use the mandolin. I love it because it's quicker and easier, and anything that's easier on my life, I will actually use. So this is going to be a quick version of my Italian pasta fazool. Right now I'm browning up the hamburger and onions, and as soon as the hamburger's fully cooked, I'm going to go ahead and mix all the onions in and then add the celery. All right, my hamburger is almost done. I think just with a few more stirs. Ooh, I'm getting a little steam. It's going to be done. And then I'm going to bump up the heat a little bit on my stove. Out of a 1 to 10, I've just had it on a 5. I'm going to bump it up a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and add my celery. Now, I have a lot of celery because the celery does great flavors. It's about a half a package, but I chopped it up really, really fine with that mandolin. I kind of packed my celery in the mandolin. I should have showed you that before I took it out, but each one goes on my prongs, and then I just really pack it in there, and then you can slice it all instead of just doing 4 pieces at a time. Slice it all really quick and really fine. I really hate slicing celery by hand, and this is a great time saver. And you can see it's not all perfect, which is okay, that's fine. I do like my celery pretty fine though in this type of a soup. I don't like big huge chunks. But I'm going to go ahead and stir this up a little bit, and I'm going to put the cover on while I chop up my carrots. Let's grab that cover here, and then I will show you. This is simmering quite nicely. I'm going to turn it down to a 5 now, but I want to show you how I did my celery. It's the same way I'm going to do my baby carrots here. These are already pre-cooked, pre-washed for me rather, but if you really pack the mandolin slicer, this is just how I do it. It's a lot easier than having 4 at a time. They seem to bend and don't do well with only 4. That way I'm getting a pile of them, and that's how I did my celery. So it almost took all my celery in one container. There, that's pretty good. And now I can just run it through the slicer, and it slices a lot at the same time. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw my carrots in. And I'm going to finish slicing up the rest. I'm going to turn this down to a 4 now. It's starting to really simmer up and make a lot of steam here while I'm cutting up the rest of those carrots. This is going to make a nice base here. Okay, that was almost 3/4 of a package of carrots, of those baby carrots. So I believe they're a pound package, so 3/4 of a pound of the carrots. And I sliced some very small, and then I made some chunky, just so they don't go all to mush when I'm cooking them. But this is coming out nice. The ground beef is cooking, the onions are tender, and the celery's tender, so that's great. And I just simmered this on a 4 while I was cutting up the carrots. So it's only been, a few minutes of simmering. Now I'm just going to leave it cooking, and I'm going to chop up the tomatoes. And then I like to blend some of the tomatoes in a blender as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. In the blender I have 2 cups of water, and I'm slicing the tomatoes in half. And I've removed the little stem parts at the top, and this will give a nice little puree to the soup instead of using canned tomato sauces. So I'm going to go ahead, put the cover on, and this blender has a little slot for a spoon, which is kind of neat, so that I can push the is it getting a little dark down there? So it can push down, but I'm going to go ahead and blend that, and then I'll show you. This is 3 tomatoes, so I'm going to go ahead and blend them a little bit more. I'm going to end up doing all the tomatoes, but I know I'm going to run out of room in my blender here. So I'll dump some in and keep some of the liquid so I can blend it. It seems to blend better if I have a liquid in here. So I'm going to go ahead, blend that, dump some in, and finish blending the rest of my tomatoes. Okay, I just finished dumping those in. Now I'm going to add the rest of my tomatoes. I have 2.5 left. There's 2. So I dumped approximately half the liquid out. And now I have enough liquid to blend these in. And I just put my cover back on. I don't blend this very long. Just enough to break up the skins. Just a few seconds like that. And now that's good to dump in. So now I have all of the tomatoes blended, and it goes in. If you don't want to use fresh tomatoes, you can go ahead and throw in some tomato sauce. It's just going to give it a more packaged taste. I don't know. I like using fresh stuff as much as I can. Now I'm going to dump the rest of this into the soup. And I'm going to start cutting up my garlic. And I'm going to put 3 cloves of garlic in here. And all the frothy pink will start. Mainly this is just it's all bubbly, so it's from air bubbles, and that'll go away with simmering. But this gives a nice base to it. It's all a vegetable base, which is going to be great. And it's not as much processed food, which is what I'm trying to get away from. I'm trying to do more of whole foods and not store-bought processed. I'm going to put in the garlic right here that I've chopped up. I used a whole bulb of garlic right here. You want to make sure that you know the kind of garlic you're adding to it. If it's stronger garlic, then don't add as much. Add it to your taste, but like I said, I like a lot of garlic. So I use a whole clove of garlic. And of course, the longer you're cooking the garlic, you're cooking out some of that flavor too, so it won't be as strong. If you put it in toward the very, very end, you're going to get a stronger tasting garlic. At least that's what I found. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the seasonings all ready on a plate, and then I'll tell you what I'm adding. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the seasonings. This is a tablespoon of basil and oregano. And I have a teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder. I have a half a teaspoon of ground thyme. And I have a tablespoon of the bouillon base, which is a vegan flavored chicken broth. You can use a vegetable broth. This is all vegan, but it flavors like a chicken stock. Vegetable broth. Any kind of bouillon base that you would like. And of course, if you want to taste and season as you like, but this is all as I start the soup. I know this is good, so I add it at the beginning, and then as it cooks, we can adjust the flavors as we need to. But like I said, as a beginning, this is a good beginning. And this is going to simmer for a long time. I did add my garlic. I think I just showed you that. And so now I'm going to add a little bit more liquid. I'm going to add 2 more cups or so of liquid. Now I'm adding my beans. I put 1 of each can in. I rinsed them first in the sink, and now I'm going to go ahead and pop them in my pot. And then I'm going to let all of this stock simmer for about an hour. I like my soup cooked low and slow. That's my feeling for old-fashioned traditional soup. I do not like the soups that are cooked in 20 minutes because the flavor needs to come through all of the ingredients. That's my philosophy. So we are going to let this simmer for about an hour, and then I'm going to go ahead and check it at that point. But actually, it's really looking pretty good right now. But once it simmers and cooks, that's when it all comes together and all these flavors meld together. I'm not going to put any pasta in or anything now. I've held out a can of each that I'm waiting on for my beans. Now I'm loading it with beans, like I said, because most of the time we are plant-based. So that's where we get most of our protein from. But I do want, if you look when you scoop up, I like a lot more bean than that. But that's your preference. But I like some of my beans really, really cooked. And then the beans help give thick consistency once they start cooking up to nothing to this. So it won't be so liquidy. But then I like some of the beans crunchy. So I withhold a can of each. So I'm going to go ahead and let that cover that and let that simmer. I have that down to a 3 now. And I'm going to leave that for about an hour. I'm going to go ahead and now add a can of tomato paste. And this is optional if you don't have it. This gives a little bit of sweetness to it. And then I'm going to add 2 more cups of water. And then I've cut some fresh rosemary. So I'm going to put 2 sprigs and then a little bit, a smaller one here, in for flavor. Ground rosemary if you don't have fresh, or dried rosemary rather. Be careful if you're doing the ground, because that's pretty strong. It's been about an hour now since it's simmered, and it's really coming together nicely. That's the secret to soup, is slow. Low, slow cooking. What is man? I just added the 2 extra cups of water, and now I'm going to stir in that paste real good. And then I'm going to let it simmer for another hour or so. I mean, you could eat it now if you put your pasta in, but like I said, I like everything to be really cooked well. I like soup cooked all day, or at least a couple hours. This is beautiful though, right now. Wow. Looks good. But it's going to be even better. You can see the consistency. It's going to be even better with another hour of cooking. Then I'm going to throw in my pasta, and then I'll throw in the last 2 cans of beans as well. But this will give this time all of this stuff to cook up real good. So that's going to be perfect. I just finished removing the rosemary sprigs right here, and some have fallen off, which is okay. But that last hour of cooking really set that flavor with rosemary, so I pulled out most of it because it's good. The taste is perfect right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add the pasta now. While that was cooking, that last hour, last 10 minutes of the hour, I boiled my water and then cooked my pasta. And I didn't do the whole package of pasta because these are pretty big pieces. And I don't want it to be overpowering. I did about half a package. I don't want it to overpower with the pasta. And it really thickened up that last hour. And it is a beautiful, let me use my spoon here. I like the spatula because it gets all the sides here. But it is really a beautiful, thick, hearty stew that tastes phenomenal. I am not going to add anything else to this, but if you want to salt and pepper this to taste, you can. But this has enough flavor in it with what I put in. For me, I'm happy. I don't need salt. That can of paste added enough salt and additives to it that I don't need to add anything else for my taste. But this is beautiful. Look how thick that is. That is just amazing. And it tastes wonderful too. So I am going to finish filling up my bowl now that I have my pasta in there. And you can see it adds enough pasta with that half package. But you know, you add what you want. If you want more pasta into it, you know, use the whole package, but I like it to be mostly with bean and vegetables, and then you get a hint of your pasta right here. Oh, sorry. There. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Nice and chunky. And then adding the beans, the last 2 cans of beans after that last hour cooked. That way they stay big and chunky here as well. So, bon appetit, and I hope you enjoy the pasta, my Italian pasta soup. Perfect. Now, if you'd like to subscribe, we appreciate all subscribers. It helps me to make more videos. I'm looking for my goal of 1,000 subscribers, so anyone will be appreciated.